Hello, everyone. Welcome to the weekly JupyterLab call for August 2nd. Today we have 12 people on the call, 12. And hey, that's all right. That's a good number. So if you would like, please sign in. The agenda is in the chat. And if you would like to talk about an issue, please add your name in the list. And why don't we get started with Fred?
Hey, so just some updates, mainly on non-technical subjects. The 2 weeks period notice for archiving the unmaintained repository was actually last Wednesday. So basically, I will proceed to archive them. Only Brian has raised interest of not archiving the commenting extension, but all the others are going to be archived. So yes, just for information. Thanks to Jason and Jason for all the comments and English thing about the proposal for expliciting the policy about membership rights. I propose to keep the issue on the Team Compass and the associated PR open for 1 more week for discussion, and then if it's okay, then we should probably ask for a vote on that one, as it's clarifying some membership rights. I guess it makes more sense. And my last question, as I was not there last week, in the note of last week, apparently it was decided to set up a vote for, I guess, accepting or not the pull request from Nick to support rendering mermaid syntax in Markdown as graph. Did somebody bootstrap that vote or not? If not, then I'm happy to do it.
I don't believe anyone did anything about it. And that might be my fault. I don't recall what I said would happen next, but there's a recording that says something. So it might be me. I may have said I'm going to do it and I didn't do it. I don't remember.
No problem. Then I'll go for the vote on mermaid stuff, as I definitely want the work of Nick merge. Hopefully people will agree with us. Yeah, don't worry about the conflict, Nick. I push. You have already spent so much time. Thanks a lot for that. I help you after the vote is done.
Can I just throw a quick comment on the tail end of that? Yeah, and so that's led to some interesting conversations over on the JEP. I'm just standing back because it's not going to happen, so I'm not going to do anything there. But it's calling out what things like this, when you pick a particular project or particular product over a platform or a standard, and sneakily, that's kind of why I did this, right? I want us to have a way that we can talk about these things. It just happened that I actually think that this is a really good product for our purposes at this time. So that's actually a really good JEP to read, to learn about, what is a JEP? Why do we need a JEP? And what happens when you have something that isn't really a JEP because there's no underpinning to it, right? Sort of an object lesson. Good luck.
Okay. Thank you for bringing the vote up. And let's continue. And if I dropped the ball, I apologize. I really, truly do not remember. The next person on the agenda is Jason W.
Hey, good morning, good evening, everyone. So a couple items. Jupyter AI, which is our interface for connecting JupyterLab and Jupyter notebooks with generative AI models. We just released 1.0 for JupyterLab 3 and 2.0 for JupyterLab 4, and we're planning to maintain support for both Lab 3 and Lab 4. And kudos to my teammate David for driving the releases of those 0.0 releases. I also have a blog post that I submitted into the Medium blog queue. I submitted that on Monday, sent a follow-up email yesterday. I know a lot of people are probably taking some time off, so I'm wondering, is anyone available to review and potentially approve that? Oh, I see a thumbs up from Sylvan.
Yeah, sorry, I was super busy. I don't want to be a gatekeeper. Happy to have a quick read, just supervise and approve.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I already ran through it with Brian because I pretty much have to have my public communications vetted through him, and he's approved it. He's also out on vacation this week, but I can follow up if you need to make any revisions to that. Thank you.
Oh no, it's just just want to do the due diligence of reading it before just hitting approve. Yeah.
I appreciate that. All right, thank you. That's all I got.
Great, thank you, Jason.
Just for info on the chat, Mike said that he can help with review. He's just not having access to it, to Medium.
Is there someone who can give him access? I think it's one way of doing it is Twitter accounts are what you authenticate to get into Medium. So we add a list of Twitter accounts I can review. That's a thing. Or I don't know if you can explicitly share the draft, but yeah, please.
I don't think you need a Twitter account to log in because I'm logged in with an email address.
Okay, cool.
So they have other identity pools, but you do need an account, and then you need to be in whatever pool of people. Jeremy, I do have a draft, although the draft is not precisely what I submitted because Medium's format is a little different than Google Docs' format. So it's probably easiest to review it on Medium.
Yeah, I meant the Medium draft directly. Like if you go to share and then.
Do I have access to do that? Let me see if I can grab that for the group. I'm not sure if that will work, but yeah, I will do my best to get that to you.
Great, thank you. And Mike, you are up next.
Yeah. So JupyterLab Vim extension has been upgraded to JupyterLab version 4. Please note that it has changed its versioning scheme, so it's no longer on 0x, and now it's synchronized with lab versioning. It's 4.0, and it happily also works with notebook version 7. And one of the highlights is that because JupyterLab no longer ships Vim keymap for files, it's all handled by the extension. And we discussed a few meetings back whether to port that into the core. We can still have that discussion later, but for now, like a critical need of users is met that it just works out of the box after installing. And thank you everyone who helped to make the releases happen. And thanks Fred for opening a pull request to finish up some releasing issues. And I have one question, whether anyone was planning on making a patch release for JupyterLab. There are quite a few bug fixes, which some of them were already fixed, some of them are in draft, but users keep opening issues, duplicative issues, reporting the same bug over and over. And I'd also like to have some of the things for LSP which were merged to be released so that I can continue with porting the extension. If no one has time for that, I can dedicate a little bit of my time to release, but yeah, just wanted to sync up this.
If you're too busy for right now, I can do it tomorrow, I guess.
Yep, anytime this week would be amazing. But if not, I can do that like on Friday.
Yeah, let's do it tomorrow so that if something is wrong, you have Friday to fix it because I'm off on Friday.
All right.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I am next. So I've brought up at a few calls the virtual scrolling of the notebook and proposing a different user experience of navigating that rather than the native scroll bar, because when you have the native scroll bar in a finite document of unknown height, the experience of it is a little counter to what your normal expectations would be. You can't grab the scroll bar and drag it all the way to the bottom and be at the bottom of your document. And you can't look at your scroll bar and know exactly, or not exactly, know inexactly how tall your document is, because that height's going to change. And those two things make using the virtual scrolling of the notebook enough noticeable that some people turn off that feature, and we don't have it on by default. And so Gabriella, who couldn't make the call today, has made some prototypes of a different way of scrolling virtual notebooks, and she is requesting volunteers for a 15-minute user test of these prototypes to get some feedback. And I will also be asking at the accessibility call the next time that call is as well. But you know, the more the merrier. This data will help come up with a way of making the experience of rendering the notebook virtually and scrolling through it pleasant enough that we can make it the default, because I think it should be our goal for JupyterLab to be performant, and the only way to guarantee that is to render just what's on your screen, and the only way to do that is to give people an experience that's good enough that they're satisfied with it and doesn't downgrade what their expectations are. So please, there's a comment that I linked to in an issue about this. If you are willing to spend 15 minutes on this, please just write a comment there and we can connect. And I would really appreciate it. And Gabriella has been really eager to get this stuff in front of people, so I think she would appreciate it too. Thank you. Does anyone want to say anything about that, or should we move on? I was just mostly asking for volunteers, but I'm happy to talk about it if. Oh, there's a comment. Could the change be prototyped on an extension, the mouse field? Yeah, you're right. It can be, right? It's just like, how much work do you want to do? How much implementation do you want to do? Because some of the scrolling stuff is very subtle and irritating. But yeah, we were talking about exactly how you can only get so far, because if you're specifically talking about scroll mechanics, that's a really difficult thing to prototype in Figma. So at some point, for fidelity's sake, we'll have to also do the same thing, but with a draft PR or something. And Mike also has his hand raised.
Yes. So one of the subtle features of many scroll bars is that they also allow to highlight more state, and that varies between browsers. But for example, when you search, you can see a little highlight on the sections of the document where there are matches, and that would also potentially apply to linters. Some editors allow to use scroll bar to highlight where there are errors in the document. So I'm pretty excited about having this virtual scroll bar. Just wonder whether you are considering things like that, or are you only thinking about the mechanics and whether this is a good idea right now?
Well, the hope is that this becomes a feature that can be incrementally improved in a lot of ways. One way that seems low cost at the beginning is to highlight the cells that are in your viewport in the scroll bars. So you have a sort of like moving LED of which cell you're currently looking at or which range you're looking at. An imaginary future that's very far from today, each one of those little squares is actually a rendered thumbnail of the cell, like Google Slides, but we're so far from being able to do that that that's just a fantasy feature. You could imagine the search provider tying in so that it highlights specific cells with matches as you search the way you said. But yeah, we're not like, I think the initial prototypes are going to be pretty modest and allow for iteration, because it's just the mechanics of the scrolling right now aren't satisfying enough. So getting that right first, and then, you know, hopefully it does become a space for features. Yeah. Great, thank you. If there's no one else, we can move on to Ely. Cool.
Everyone, very excited to announce a Jupyter Open Studio Day in New York City on Monday, August 28th. I will be there. Much of my team will be there. It's being hosted by Bloomberg. These studio days are awesome. They're sort of like unconferences if you've had that experience. It's where I made my first ever Jupyter contribution, and I'll be doing a tour of various Jupyter project meetings to spread the good news. But yeah, if you can make it, it's going to be a great time. And
Awesome.
if you know anyone who would enjoy coming and can make it, please pass that word along. I'll stick the link in the chat, but I've already put it in the agenda for today.
A bunch of us will be there.
Yes.
Sweet. Thank you very much. Okay, cool. The next person on the agenda is Tony.
Darian did a bunch of hard work and herded cats. And we have a new accessibility meeting time. Usually the meeting's 15 minutes after this meeting on every other week. But now we are moving to Thursdays at 9 a.m. PST. Yeah, that's going to be the new accessibility time. It's after the Jupyter server call during the off weeks of the Jupyter server contributing hour. So we hope to see some more folks there, and we hope that it's a little bit more friendly for the Eastern European team.
Cool, thank you. It wasn't really that much hurting. Zach's a very nice person, so he was like, okay, that's it. Yeah, please come. So the next one isn't actually tomorrow, it is a week from tomorrow, and please come. It is the same time as this call.
Yep, and we're still working towards some Notebook 7 fixes as our recommended application for screen reader users. So if you have any spare cycles, come on over. We have some issues queued up, and we can put folks to work if they have the cycles.
Cool, great. We have reached the bottom of the agenda. Is there anyone who has been holding back? Now's your moment. Okay, cool. Is there any additional discussion that is held over from before that we ought to pick up now? I can stop the recording if there's nothing that is outstanding.
I had a question for Ely, and she can not answer. I'm not sure about this, but I think it's really, Ely, if it's okay, I'm really interested in these open studio days because Bloomberg's run them a few times. And I'm curious about how y'all as an organization benefit from doing this, or how it's, what motivates y'all to keep doing this, because it seems like a great event being able to offer the space and time for something like this. And yeah, again, please feel free to decline to answer.
Well, I may be the only Bloomberger here today, but I'm not the only former Bloomberger here today. So I welcome anyone else to jump in who can speak to this, who maybe was more involved in starting up these events. my understanding, well, it's great to connect with the community. I've personally made a lot of connections to Jupyter folks that have really come in handy with working on Jupyter. And I think that's probably true for a handful of Bloombergers at this point. Part of my team's mission in particular is contributing to Jupyter, which, JupyterLab is a product that we rely heavily on for one of our own products. And so it's, feeling very on the spot, but, it's, I think it's sort of a like, broad vision of contributing to this product that benefits us so much. And Bloomberg has great spaces for hosting and great resources for hosting in general. And it's relatively easy to pull together an event like this. And we've definitely seen it benefit the whole community when we've done them in the past.
Sorry to put you on the spot, but yeah, the benefit's apparent. So thank you all for the support.
Cool. I mean, that's a nice thing.
Right.
Anyone else have anything you would like to say on the record? Okay, well then I'm going to stop the recording. Brace yourselves.